Amen, I say to you, this poor widow has contributed all she had, her whole livelihood. In today's gospel, according to Mark, we just heard Jesus observing and praising this woman because she gave all she had to support the mission of the temple. Now, how providential is it that today, not only do we celebrate our own 60th anniversary of the dedication of this temple, this church, but also that we consider, as we do every year, our own State of the Parish report to become more aware of how the gifts that we give to the mission of the church are bearing much fruit. Before we get into that, just something to note from the gospel passage, how things have changed. When people put money into the temple treasury that Jesus is talking about, it was these large trumpet-like metal containers. When you dropped your coins in, everybody knew pretty much how much you gave. Today we have collection baskets with felt in, so nobody knows, so there's no need to worry about that. But Jesus is still observing as he was in that time. Now, the law of the church requires me as the pastor of Sacred Heart to give this report each year, and this report is for Sacred Heart. I also am giving the one for Divine Mercy this weekend as well. Both reports will be sent around to you on Tuesday in an e-blast to all of the parish, so you'll be able to see both of them. We prepared a special handout, which we're going to look at in a minute, and you received on the way in. But before we do that, I want to go back to basics for a minute and just talk about, well, what is a parish and why do we even have them? Why do we need them? A parish is a community of the Christian faithful. As Father Roger said at the beginning of the Mass, the people are the church. It's established within a particular church, a diocese. It's under the authority of the diocesan bishop. It's entrusted to a priest as its pastor. We have parishes because we need to carry on the mission that Christ gave us now through his church, which is always worship of God, living and sharing the good news, and caring for those in need. So in other words, the parish of Sacred Heart is situated in Cicero in the Diocese of Syracuse. It's under the authority of the bishop. It's entrusted to me as the pastor, and the whole purpose is for pastoral or spiritual care that is directed toward the salvation of souls. That's what a parish is. That's why we're here. Now, while the mission of the church is under the direction of the bishop and the leadership of the pastor, it's also something that's entrusted to all of you by virtue of your baptism. So you will notice in the bulletin today, and you can look at this later, that our parish has a lot of people involved in it. We have 2 lay trustees who help with the overall administration of the parish. We have a finance council that's made up of people with various expertise in financial and other business-related matters. They help to make sure we're acting as good stewards of the gifts that we receive. And we have a pastoral council. They are made up of a variety of people from both Sacred Heart and Divine Mercy. There's one council, male and female, young and wise, and they help to foster the life and the mission of the parish. In addition to these key players and consultative bodies, we also are very blessed to be assisted by 2 priests, Father Rogers from Lemoyne, who helps us on a regular basis on the weekend, and we're very grateful for that. We also have Monsignor Elmer, who still helps us on a more limited basis as he's retired. We have 4 wonderful deacons. We have a seminarian, Doug, on pastoral year. We have 2 religious sisters with us temporarily in October and November on mission. We have an amazing, amazing parish staff that work nonstop behind the scenes, and they sacrifice to be able to do that because of what we can afford to compensate them. We have wonderful and extremely dedicated volunteers that make so much happen around here. And we have all of you who support the mission of the church here at Sacred Heart, all of us, with our time, our talent, and our treasure. Now, with that in mind, I'd like now for you to take a look at the 2023-2024 Annual State of the Parish Report, just briefly. It's this that you received in the bulletin. So if you go ahead and take that out. This report reflects, for the most part, information from July 1st of 2023 to June 30th of 2024, the last fiscal year, the full one. Now, you'll notice on the first page, the front cover, there's a short letter from me. I'd ask you to please read that when you get home today. And go ahead now and open up to the inside of the report. And you will notice on the left-hand side, our parish at a glance. So we have 1,070 registered and active families. We've cleaned that up over the last year to know how many we actually have. And last year, we actually got 160 new families registered, which is remarkable. We have 23 ministries here with 258 participants. Last year, we pledged almost $230,000 in our increased offertory campaign, which I'll talk about later. And there are 204 families who participate regularly in online giving to support the mission of the parish. Notice next to that our sacramental ministry. So you'll see the number of baptisms, first communions, confirmations, weddings, funerals, and so on. And below that, we've highlighted some of our upcoming events. There are many, and so we hope that you'll join us for these particular ones that are very special. On the right-hand side of the page, you will notice the main things that we do under the three aspects of our mission. So at the top of the page, under worship, you will see that our Mass attendance has actually gone up slightly, which again is remarkable in the crisis of faith that we are in. You will see the many opportunities there that draw us closer to the Lord through confession, adoration, and so on, and the many people who are taking advantage of these opportunities. Under the second part, which is the middle part of the page, living and sharing the good news, you will notice the number of people growing in our faith. And one of the ways we support that is through our annual Apple Festival, which last time raised almost $20,000 for youth and family ministries. Under caring for those in need, you will notice the extraordinary number of people who are being served. Just look at that highlighted number, 3,645 meals a month by Anna's Pantry. And you'll notice some of the ways that we do that. One of them is through our annual Hope Appeal, which last year raised about $105,000. And now please turn to the last page, the back cover, and you will see how all of this is made possible through our kindness and generosity. So our revenue, you'll see the prior year, and then you'll see this year's budget next to that. Our revenue comes from our regular collection. It comes from other income. So we rely on Hope Appeal overage, for example. It comes from restricted income and donations. Some people say, well, here's an extra gift for the food pantry, and that's only to be used for the pantry, and that's what happens. And then you'll notice special collections, which are basically the second collections we take throughout the year for various needs. In total, last year, we received $1,230,837. Our expenses are also listed there. So you'll notice expenses are for ministry, right? All the things that we just saw. And then our staffing expenses are there, as well as our property expenses, how we maintain our facilities. You'll notice restricted expenses. So if money was given just for the food pantry, it's only used for the food pantry in that column. And then you'll notice special collections. Again, those are the money that comes in for those collections goes right back out for those purposes. So in total, last year, we spent $1,109,000. We had a net gain of $230,729. Now, the year before this past fiscal year, we had a net loss of $130,000. We were in a deficit by $130,000 that year, and basically around the same amount for the 2 years even prior to that. So there was a trend there. When I arrived last year, we basically froze spending. We cut our costs dramatically. We employed a professional accounting firm to organize and manage our finances, and we, by the grace of God, were able to turn things around and get out of that trend. The surplus that we have this year is now being used first for deferred maintenance and projects that we put off because we didn't know where we were at, and secondly, to build back our almost non-existent savings so that we can be in a positive financial position to move forward. Every year we go in a deficit, that just comes out of savings. One day that runs out, now we're trying to build that back up again. We budgeted, you'll see on that back page too, very conservatively and cautiously for this year, just to see where we're at and to try to achieve the same purpose again, building our financial stability for the mission. So that's our 2023-2024 State of the Parish report. I'd like to offer a few important comments about that. First, coming together with divine mercy as two parishes, one family, has changed everything in a good way. It's made it possible for us not only to survive, because without coming together, neither parish, as good as they are, could survive on their own. Staffing costs are astronomical today. Everything has gone up, and we could not afford the staff we need to do all that we do here. So now that we've come together, we have, for example, because we can afford it, a strong, vibrant youth and family ministry staff and program full-time between both of our parishes. We're able to offer our staff full-time positions between both parishes that provide a living wage. We were not able to do that before. We also have, because we can afford it, a communications coordinator for both parishes, as well as a director of music for both parishes and our cantors. Otherwise, as I said, staffing costs today prohibit these and other future possibilities. So it's been a very good relationship, not only financially, but also pastorally on so many levels. Second, the increased offertory program that we did last year made it possible for us to move beyond the last few years of net loss after deficit to a new time in which we have had our first significant net gain. We've had an amazing response here at Sacred Heart of 47% of parishioners, which is slightly above the average. In January, we were going to follow the advice of the professional company we used and renew this program for the new families who have come in, but also for those who now see more transparently the mission of the church at our parish and say, I'd really like now to be more of a part of that than I am. Places like the American Heart Association, St. Jude's Hospital, even our own Francis House and Joseph's House in the diocese, they do this every year. And it helps them to move from just being able to say, hey, we have these needs over and over and over again and keep going back to people, to basically allowing people to tithe and engage in stewardship. And then there's that trust there to actually carry out the mission and to even expand it. So we'll talk more about that in January when we go to do this. But it's an important thing for our future. Third, the third comment I want to make is, last year we updated our parish census with your recent information and your photos, and that has been a game changer for us in how we do ministry. Our staff has been able to get to know parishioners better, and we can better serve you. So if you've not yet updated your information or provided a picture, please contact the office and do so. You may not want us to know who you are right now, but I can promise you, when people get sick or in need or are dying, they want us to know they're out there. And so please help us to better serve you by doing that. And the fourth and last comment I want to make is, we are making every effort in the budget and the calendar and everything to move from Christendom to apostolic mission. That should sound familiar to you because we've reflected on it in Lent last year. We're actually going to reflect on it again this Lent. It's this idea that in our current society and culture, the church and the culture are not together, right? The churches are not full. There's the crisis of faith. And the church was in a maintenance mode. Basically, well, we do these activities and everybody just comes. That's long gone. We have moved out of that era into an era of mission, where, like, for example, we send the sisters we have out to the neighborhoods. Who are you? What do you need? How can we help you to put faith back into your life again? And so we're making this effort to make this move, and it takes time and it's going to take a while, but it's always on our minds and underlying everything that we do, including how we establish our parish calendar and how we use our facilities. But now, because of that, we've developed a strategic planning committee made up of members from both of our parishes. And I also believe they're listed in the bulletin this week as well. They are working with a professional consultant right now on developing a strategic plan for the next 5 to 7 years using indicators of vitality for parishes. They're in the early stages of developing this, so soon they'll share what they found, and they will ask for your input on so many important things that we want to hear from you about. There's so much more we could say about our wonderful parishes and about how our gifts to the mission of the church are bearing fruit. Just like we heard in today's gospel, that poor widow giving all that she had to the mission of the temple. Jesus challenges us to give our all to his saving mission, which he's now entrusted to us. As we end our reflection on this year's report, I want to thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart for all that you're doing and all the ways that you're supporting the mission of the church. It really is amazing, remarkable, and very moving. It's a privilege and honor to serve as your pastor, I want to thank you for your love and support, for your trust in these challenging times. And I also want you to know that every day, I myself get up and try to give 200%, 12 hours most days, 7 days most weeks. And I do this because I believe with all my heart in the mission that's been entrusted to us, and I believe in our parishes and all of you. And so we recognize today that we are truly blessed. And let's pray at this Eucharist for the grace to continue to receive those blessings from God, and more importantly, to share those blessings with others as we carry out the mission the Lord has given to us.